So,
I write a lot of checks.
thank you.
Thank you, Chair Ladies. It's great. Thank you for inviting me up here, and I appreciate the great work you do. I would never want to be chairman of anything, and I've been chairman of a bunch of them. The best thing that ever, buddy Brian Hornback's here from Knoxville, he can tell you the best thing that ever happened to me was not getting elected chairman of Knox County. I remember walking up the stage, I was thinking, somebody said, "Are you mad?" And down deep I was saying, "Lord, thank you." It's a tough job. You don't make anybody happy, but it is a pleasure being here with y'all. And I know this is supposed to be Republican women, but it looks like the second in command of a lot of these households come in, and some of these old guys are here, so I appreciate y'all. And I appreciate these three right here. They were, your little girl and my little girl Isabel went to school together, and I stole her away from all them up there, so I appreciate y'all very much. I know this is a women's club, and I'm going to direct this mainly to the ladies for a little bit. I'm surrounded by strong women. My mama was she was an incredible lady. She lost her brother fighting the Nazis during the Second World War, and then she wanted to do her part. She actually flew an airplane during the Second World War. She was a pretty tough lady. I shouldn't say this, but Kid Rock has a saying. He calls himself the American badass. And I had lunch with him the other day, and I told him, in fact, he was not the American badass because I was raised by the American badass. He laughed. We've been friends for a while. Thomas went with me, and it was quite a luncheon. Wouldn't you say, Thomas? It was supposed to be just a little visit. It turned into a 3-hour catered event, so it was a lot of fun. But you'll read about it in my autobiography, because I won't be able to print it because I have to wait till a couple of those people that were there died. But getting back to my planned speech, I am surrounded by strong women. My chief of staff in East Tennessee is a lady named Jenny Lingenfelter. She came over with me from the Knox County Mayor's office, and she's wonderful. She's very smart. And the other one is a lady named Kelsey Wolfgram up in Washington, and she is incredibly smart and gifted too, and she runs those halls like a pro, and that's what I need. And they're both real sweet, acting and smile and act real nice, but if you cross me, they will cut you. That's what I like loyalty. That's my thing. But we've got a lot of challenges coming up here, folks. You know, we've gone on this victory lap. President, I mean, are y'all tired of winning yet?
No.
Well, get ready, because a lot more is coming. Last week, I wasn't sure how I was going to vote on this thing. It was continued resolution, and continued resolutions are not a good way to do business. But Trump inherited from our prior Republican leadership. They were supposed to have done some things, and they didn't do it, frankly, and that's why we have new leadership. He has been pointing that out. He and J.D. Vance have pointed that out consistently in our meetings about what should have happened, and there was an agreement to do some things, and things didn't happen. So now we're having to make some tough decisions. And basically, a continued resolution. It's really disingenuous for the Democrats to be, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. This is the worst, because this is almost exactly their budget, except for there's about $20 billion that's moved around. They've cut some money from the IRS. I know that hurts everybody in here, that the IRS is not going to be. And why they bought all that ammunition and guns, to me, is just there's a lot of questions, and there's going to be, Trump needs about 20 years to dig through all the nonsense that's gone on the last 4 years. But the money was shifted over, and I don't like it. I call the Pentagon war pimps because I'm sick of it. I love our military fighting men and women. My daddy fought in the Corps. Mama lost her brother. My wife is another strong woman who was a widow and raised our little girl for quite some time before I came on the scene, and I adopted Isabel. And she's a barrel racer, and she's a tough little strong girl. Lady, I guess I should say. She's almost 18. When is her birthday? Do y'all know? When?
Same day as mine, June 14th.
Oh yeah, I see if I Did you get those roses I sent you last year? I better be careful. Her husband's an attorney about what I say here. But anyway, we got our work cut out for it. This continued resolution is really just kind of a stopgap, and I wasn't really sure I was going to vote, so I get this call the other day. It was Wednesday. I was meeting with some people, and it popped up Palm Beach. I knew who that was. And we had a really nice conversation for about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. Usually how it goes. President Trump, he's really, you'd think the most powerful guy in the world, but he always stops to talk to me, and we have great conversations. And he expressed his concerns too, that DOGE was the next thing was gonna be the Pentagon and the Department of Education. And that's a whole nother barrel of snakes that we're gonna have to get into. And so with the Pentagon though, you have, in my opinion, it's corruption. It's just corruption. And that's why I'm trying to pass a bill that it just says members of Congress can't own individual stocks. They need to do like I do. My buddy Tommy Siler manages my $13,000 portfolio down there on Gay Street. I have mutual funds, and because when you see stock, everybody wants to get on Pelosi, but the reality is, out of the top 500, she's not even in the top 10. There's some that have just, and it's not good. And I'll give you one case in point for our attorney in the room for some evidence. But you remember when we've been involved with Ukraine? I haven't voted for 110 dimes with those folks. It's not our war, and it's not. And when I hear Zelensky say, "You better pay for it now, or you're going to be sending your boys and girls over," and I said, "The heck we are. The heck we are. It ain't not that gun war, and you all figure it out." Russia, Putin is he's basically the equivalency of a third world dictator. Their GDP, gross domestic product, production is somewhere in between Canada's and France's. It is in no way comparison to the old Soviet Union and their territorial wars. It's horrible. I hate seeing. And Trump told me, he said, they're just running out of young people because they're all dying, both sides really. And he said they're not our people. He said, Tim, but it's awful, and it really is. But when we gave them our missile defense system, our rules say we have to be ready at a certain level. I know our military folks understand that readiness, and we should, because we don't want to. We'd be without a missile defense system when folks like China and others that are always breathing down our neck. Well, we did that, and so we had to replenish our missile supply immediately. It was a no-bid contract, multi-billion-dollar contract. And guess who just happened to have bought stock in that missile defense system? Members of both parties that were on the committee, the military committees that went through. And folks, that kind of stuff, that is going to get our young people killed, and that kind of mentality. We need to check that. And the only way to do that is to eliminate stock trades by members of Congress, because now they report it more or less, and there's actually mutual funds that just follow Pelosi's trades and just follow certain members' trades, and that's how they judge. And it works really well, from what I understand. My wife reminds me of that every time that list comes out. She said, "Honey, can't we get a new stockbroker?" And I said, "No, honey." She's kidding, of course. She knows I'm not going to do that, and she wouldn't want me to. But it's a real mess. And Trump told me, he said next. And I'll get to questions. I'll stop here in a minute. I'll answer, unless you're telling me to shut up. You gotta get get that food, because you don't. I gotta take it with me. But and I'll finish up here in a second. But the other one is Department of Education that I'm really concerned with. I talked to the president about that too. I come from a family of educators. My degree was in education, and what happens? People think that all the money that comes into that education is funded by the federal government. It's really only about 10%. But they attach so many outrageous strings to it. I want our teachers to be able to teach. I don't want them testing for some national standards. This country's done pretty well before we had all that. Another case in point. Everybody thinks Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education. Well, he didn't. It was actually created in the 1800s. Jimmy Carter made it a cabinet level position. So it gave it that prominence. Trillions of dollars have flowed in Washington, D.C., through the Department of Education. And you couldn't find one dadgum bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. that's taught a kid how to read, write, or do arithmetic in Grainger County. I can guarantee you. So Well, shut the dadgum thing down. Nobody can figure out what those bureaucrats even do, or if they don't even show up for work. As a matter of fact, our next Doge committee, Marjorie told me we're gonna have it at an abandoned federal building that's fully rented out. If that tells you anything. And one of them, they told me every 2 years they go in and change the light fixtures. I said, the light bulbs? They said, no, the light fixtures. So, I mean, it's just, it's a nightmare. So, cut the money off, send it to the feds, send it all of the states. Let y'all in Grainger County decide what to do with it. You all can decide much better what to do with it than some clown out in San Francisco or somebody up in New York City, especially somebody in Washington, D.C. Let the locals do it. Hold your school boards accountable. Hold your state legislators accountable. And then we'll see what happens. That's when Jimmy Carter took it over, that's another point I meant to make, we were number one in the world. Number one in the world. Now we're 22nd to 27, depends on who you talk to. So those are some things I'm concerned about. Those are some things President Trump is concerned about. And I can assure you, he knows where Tennessee is on the map. Because every time he sees me, he says, Tim, I really love Tennessee. And the last time, after he wasn't sure where I was gonna be, and he goes, Tim, Tennessee really loves Trump. I said, yes, sir, Mr. President, I know that. It's something most of y'all are Christian folks here, I suspect, but I pray for President Trump and I pray for his soul. And I don't want him to teach my daughter's Sunday school class, but I sure like him in the White House. I like him in the White House. There was a thug out there, a guy named Soleimani, who killed Americans, who killed civilians, and he was really just an evil. Won't go into all of it, but he was a bad dude. And Trump knew where he was. They'd isolated him on a highway, and they knew if him and this other fellow in the Middle East got together, there was usually going to be some bad stuff that's going to happen. And it's going to affect America. It could kill Americans, and they're going after a lot of folks. And Trump, they found him on the highway, his caravan, and so he sent a missile in there, and they killed him, a cruise missile, which he should. And those are but you know what Trump didn't do? He didn't check with Nancy Pelosi. He didn't check with the United Nations. He sure as heck didn't check with Congress. He just told the Pentagon, he said, take that guy out at a safe spot, no civilians, because they could have had him in the airport. I saw all the footage. You can talk about it now, but back then we couldn't talk about it. And you know what the Democrats did? They wanted to have a hearing over why they weren't consulted first. And they might as well just broadcast it to our freaking terrorists. You know, I have a bill to defund the Taliban. There's a guy named Sean Ryan who does a podcast over in Middle Tennessee. He's become a really good friend of mine, former Navy SEAL, former CIA operator. He's done a lot of, he's a very good person who's been called on to do some very bad things. And he's an excellent American. I just can't say enough about him. And he found out there's another guy named Legend, and he goes by Legend because he's a Muslim, but he fought on our side in the war over in Afghanistan. He's an American. He's a dear friend. He goes by Legend because he can't go by his real name because he's got so many hits out. And he found out that we're sending the Taliban $40 million a week. A week. And that's a bill I'm trying to get passed in the House and the Senate. But for whatever reason, it has really drawn a lot of, I think mainly because some people are going to have to admit what they did. When I talked to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken under Biden, he said, you know, Congressman, that's just it doesn't exist. And I read him the numbers. He said, it's just a small percentage of the money we send over there. $40 million a week is not a small percentage of money for the people in East Tennessee. And it ought to be in Washington, D.C., but that's how arrogant that bunch is. I'm working on a lot of pieces of legislation, hope to get passed. Trump was asked about that bill, and he said, it's more like 40 billion, not 40 million, you know, so I whatever he wants, I'm okay. If it's $40, it's too much for those dirt bags to get, but we totally had lost our country, and I think we were heading off the abyss. I think God gave us one opportunity, and like I said, Trump ain't my Sunday school teacher, but he is who he needs to be. So why don't I stop there and answer any questions? I'm sorry, I can go on. Thomas wrote me some great notes, and I don't know why I never look at them, but I'll probably go back over them. Anyway, go ahead, sir. Yeah,
where these politicians on these committees are buying into companies like that, or that are doing government work,
Yes, sir.
Isn't it illegal for them to do that? If it's not, it should be, in my opinion.
Yes, sir, as long as they report it, basically, is what it is.
And they shouldn't be allowed to, period, in my opinion.
That's my point exactly. That's my point. Own a mutual fund, it's just, you own stock in 1,500 companies, 25 cents a pop or something, that's what I do, because I don't think it's ethical. And I got busted because I owned Denny's stock, like that was some insider deal. No, somebody said that's on brand. But hey, I didn't want Waffle House to know I was cheating on it. I agree with you, and as Kaz Walker used to say, that's crooked as a dog's leg.
Yeah, cause, if they go in, you hear of them all the time, they go into office, they've got $750,000 in their account, and they come out of office 20 years later, and they got 25 million.
Yes, sir.
Well, that don't add up. When you figure what their salary is every year.
I could not agree with you more. And the bill that I have, it addresses too, they'll call their wife and or husband or whatever and do it through them, but it addresses its spouses and immediate family members. But we gotta quit electing crooks, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. And
Seems to me
I'll put that down as you support my legislation.
Okay, that'll
Seems
work.
to me like they just pass money around from one hand to the other, because if we're in trillions in debt, where do they get all these millions that they send to other people?
Yeah, well, they borrow it. Every dollar we send to Ukraine is
We're so
borrowed.
in debt, why do they do that?
Because we let them. Because like Doge right now, I'm
They
getting
all
calls.
need to be replaced.
I agree. That's what Doge is doing. They're, the amount of waste is just astronomical. And I want to tell you something. There is not one piece of legislation that I've seen in any of this stuff we pass, or one word in there. It doesn't even address Medicaid or Medicare. The Democrats are using that as a scare tactic. I don't know if any of y'all remember when Ronald Reagan, he caught grief for decreasing the size of government because they had a delivery system. It was some charitable deal, and for every dollar that they sent to him, it cost $2 to get it to him, because it had to touch about 1 million bureaucrats' hands. And he did away with that, and they said, "Oh, he cut this program in half. These poor people." No, he didn't. He just cut the bureaucracy. Now you've got waste, abuse, and fraud. And I met with Elon Musk. I called him Mr. Musk. He called him Elon. And we had a very lengthy conversation about all of that. And he assured me as well that he will go through that Department of Education and the Pentagon. But I've warned it, and I've been quoted on it, and it's got me in trouble with the leadership. But that paper trail is going to go right back to Washington.
Yeah.
Now, we uncovered some stuff during Ukraine that there was possibly some money going back to Democrat campaigns. This one guy, I forget, he had a funny name. He went to jail. But and now I'm sorry, that wasn't Ukraine. There was another deal. But it went right back to Democrat campaigns. I'm going to tell you, some of this stuff I think is going right back to some people's pockets. And I've stated their wives and or girlfriends, probably both, their wife and girlfriend works for some of these NGOs. But I mean, the amount we're paying for transgender surgeries down in Central America. Just go through the list. This is millions of dollars. But some of it's so outrageous that we're not doing it. And that money's going somewhere. Now the Pentagon uses for black ops. They have secret stuff they're doing. They claim that they're looking at these flying saucers or whatever. I've looked at some stuff on that, and they claim there's money going to that, but they won't show me they'll show me the file, but they won't show me what's in it, kind of thing. And it just, don't question us, and then they send the big boys down. I had leadership come sit with me on the House floor and got on to me when I said that about the money flowing right back to, I'm good, thank you. Flowing right back to the, I'm 60, you give me that, I'll be right back in the bathroom. You don't know that or not. Yeah. I don't hear any more women griping about their problems. All right? I ain't never gonna give birth to a kid, that's not happening. Knock me out, wake me up when the kid's potty trained, that's but we've got to do better, and I think you all get it. And they've got that tiger by the tail, and that's why they're squealing right now, because they've got them. And you're going to watch both parties are going to try to derail that. I don't know if you saw yesterday where my buddy Rand Paul in the Senate out of Kentucky said put all the Doge cuts going to overseas. in a bill, let's pass it, and Republicans killed it in the Senate. And they ought to be called into account for that. There's probably a good reason, there's probably some reason that they're claiming. I heard somebody say, well, we're gonna have to call the House back to Congress for Washington. Big deal. Pelosi did it the day my daughter got run over by a dadgum horse with some stupid vote. We had to go back one day to vote for it. And that was during August 12th or 15th, I think it was a couple years ago. And so, you know, you paid us to work, let's do it. And honestly, I'm home. I do more things when I'm home than I'm in Washington. In Washington, it's all just it's a game. You go to the committee, you do the thing, you see us railing at some idiot, and then it's on the 6 o'clock news or on Twitter or whatever, X, and then, but home, it's, I'm meeting with more folks. And I think that's better for the country, actually.